No one expected the attack. Not the guards, not the crowd, not Steven Seagal. The courtyard looked normal. Sunlight, shadows, silence, then everything shifted. 54 men moved at once. Not shouting, not warning, just motion. For a split second people thought it was a drill. Then they saw the intent, not a confrontation. An execution. Steven stood still. No panic, no fear, no rush. He did not back away. He did not raise his hands. He simply adjusted his stance and focused. The first man reached him, then the second, then 10, then more. 7 minutes later, none of them stood. Not because of chaos, not because of rage, because of control. The crowd could not understand what they were seeing. A single man, surrounded, outnumbered, yet completely calm. Every movement was precise. Every step had purpose. Every response ended a threat without wasting motion. No wasted energy, no unnecessary force, just mastery. The silence afterward was heavier than the noise before. No cheers, no screams, just disbelief. People looked at Steven, not with fear, with awe. They had not witnessed violence. They had witnessed discipline. They had not seen anger. They had seen authority. They had not seen a fight. They had seen control defeat chaos. Have you ever seen calm overcome overwhelming odds? It was daytime. Sunlight washed across the open courtyard. Shadows stretched calmly across the ground. Nothing looked dangerous. Nothing felt urgent. Steven stood quietly in the center of it all. No armor, no weapons, no backup, just awareness. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't scanning wildly. He wasn't tense. He looked like a man simply standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. Around him, men leaned against walls. Some whispered. Some laughed. Some pretended not to watch. From the outside it felt normal, too normal. Guards stood at their posts. No alarms, no raised voices, no visible threat. To anyone passing by it looked like a routine moment. A quiet pause between events. A space where nothing was supposed to happen. But danger rarely announces itself. It hides inside comfort, inside noise, inside familiarity. Steven felt the shift before it happened, not because of fear, because of experience. He noticed the way voices dropped, the way bodies angled slightly, the way space around him tightened without touching him. Still he did not move, not yet. He understood something most people miss. Real danger does not arrive with chaos, it arrives with calm. It arrives when people stop paying attention, when guards relax, when crowds feel safe, when no one expects a threat. That is when attacks begin, not in panic, not in noise, but in silence. Steven stayed still because stillness can be strength, because moving too early invites mistakes, because awareness is more powerful than fear. He wasn't waiting to be attacked. He was waiting for confirmation. Around him the air felt heavy, not loud, not tense, just heavy. Like the moment before a storm, when the sky is clear, but the pressure changes. Nothing had happened yet, and that was the most dangerous part. Danger often arrives when everything feels safe. A signal was given. Not a shout, not a warning, just a subtle motion. Doors shut. The sound was soft but final. Movement surrounded him, not running, not rushing, just closing in. 54 men stepped forward. Their faces were hard, their eyes focused. This was not posturing. This was not intimidation. This was intent. The courtyard no longer felt open. It felt smaller, tighter, controlled. Steven noticed the shift instantly. Not because he saw every face, because he felt the space change. The air grew heavy, the noise disappeared, the calm became unnatural. Most people would panic. Most people would step back, raise their voice, look for help, look for escape. Steven did none of that. He did not react, he did not speak, he did not move. He stayed calm, not frozen, not confused. Centered. He understood something critical. This was not a threat. This was a decision. They were not testing him. They were not warning him. They were ending him. The men moved with purpose, not anger, not emotion, just instruction. Steven adjusted his stance slightly, not to attack, to balance. He shifted his weight, not to flee, to prepare. His breathing slowed, not because he was relaxed, because he was focused. He did not look for weapons. He did not look for exits. He did not look for help. He looked for timing. Around him the circle tightened, the distance shrank, the space vanished. Every direction became danger. Yet his expression did not change. No fear, no rage, no urgency, only clarity. This is where most people lose control, not when they are hit, but when they realize what is coming. Fear makes the mind race. Panic makes the body freeze. Confusion wastes time. Steven wasted nothing. He waited for the first move, not because he was weak, because he was precise. He knew that the first mistake would not come from him. It would come from them. And when it did, everything would change. Have you ever felt danger before it struck? Steven understood the intent. This was not intimidation. This was not a warning. This was not a message. This was execution. The difference mattered. Intimidation seeks fear. Execution seeks finality. Fear can be negotiated. Finality cannot. In that instant, Steven did not think about fighting. He did not think about winning. He did not think about reputation. He thought about survival. And survival begins in the mind. He centered himself. Not through anger, not through adrenaline, through control. His breathing slowed. His vision sharpened. His awareness expanded. The noise disappeared. The crowd vanished. Only movement and space remained. This is where most people react. They swing, they run, they shout. Reaction is instinct, but instinct without control becomes chaos. Steven chose clarity. He did not rush forward. He did not retreat. He did not freeze. He accepted the reality of the situation without emotion. Acceptance is power. Once the mind accepts danger, the body stops wasting energy on fear. Once fear leaves, precision enters. Steven did not see 54 men. He saw angles, distance, timing, openings. He did not see attackers. He saw motion. He did not see threats. He saw momentum. This shift in perception is what separates panic from survival. Most people fight what they feel. Steven worked with what was real. He did not ask why this was happening. He did not think about fairness. He did not think about escape. Those thoughts slow action. He focused on one truth. He was surrounded. He was outnumbered. And he was alive. That was enough. Survival does not begin with strength. It begins with clarity. Clarity removes fear. Clarity removes doubt. Clarity removes hesitation. When hesitation disappears, movement becomes clean. Steven did not plan to dominate. He planned to endure. Endurance wins when numbers overwhelm. Endurance survives when force fails. He chose efficiency over power, timing over speed, balance over aggression. He chose to stay standing. He chose to stay breathing. He chose survival. This decision was invisible to everyone watching. No one saw a change. No one heard a word. But inside him everything had shifted. The mind had gone silent. The body had aligned. The moment had arrived. He was no longer waiting. He was ready. Survival begins with clarity, not reaction. The first wave rushed. Not walking, not warning, rushing. Their steps were heavy, their movements aggressive, their intent clear. Steven moved before they reached him. Not forward, not backward, sideways, just enough. The first attacker lunged. Steven redirected him. Not with strength, with timing. The man lost balance, hit the ground. Out of the fight. The second came immediately. Steven shifted, dropped him with a simple movement. No punches, just control. He used momentum, not force. Every attacker brought speed. Steven turned that speed against them. Every swing became a fall. Every rush became a mistake. The crowd froze. No one shouted. No one moved. No one understood what they were witnessing. They expected chaos. They expected violence. They expected blood. Instead, they saw silence. They saw precision. They saw one man controlling space while dozens lost it. The attackers hesitated. Not because they were afraid, because they were confused. Their numbers were supposed to win. Their speed was supposed to overwhelm. Their pressure was supposed to break him. None of it worked. Steven never chased, never lunged, never overextended. He stayed centered. He let them come. He let them commit. Then he redirected. Each movement was minimal, each step calculated, each action final. No wasted energy, no unnecessary strikes, no excess motion. This is where panic spreads. Not when the first man falls, but when the second and third fall just as easily. Confidence collapses faster than bodies. The attackers began to slow. Not by choice, by doubt. They saw men go down without resistance. They saw speed turned into weakness. They saw strength turned into imbalance. The space around Steven changed again. Not tighter, not smaller, but uncertain. They no longer knew how to approach. Forward felt dangerous. Sideways felt wrong. Together felt useless. The crowd remained frozen. Not out of fear, out of disbelief. They were watching a storm, but there was no noise. They were watching violence, but there was no chaos. They were watching a fight, but it did not look like one. Steven's breathing stayed steady. His posture stayed relaxed. His eyes stayed focused. He did not rush victory. He did not chase dominance. He controlled space. That is the true escalation. Not more force, more control. As more attackers rushed, they fell faster. Not because Steven grew stronger, but because they grew more desperate. Desperation creates mistakes. Mistakes create openings. Openings end fights. Steven did not need to hurt them. He only needed to stop them. And stopping does not require rage. It requires timing. The attackers hesitated. And hesitation is defeat. Would you freeze or move? Wave after wave came. Not all at once, not in order, not with strategy. They came in bursts. They came in frustration. They came in desperation. Steven never rushed, never chased, never overextended. He stayed centered. While they burned energy, he conserved it. While they lunged, he redirected. While they pushed, he stepped aside. He moved with precision. Not fast, not slow, exact. Every step placed him where he needed to be. Every turn placed them where they did not want to be. Balance, timing, control. These were not techniques, they were principles. Steven did not fight men. He managed motion. He did not overpower bodies. He disrupted momentum. He did not dominate through force. He dominated through positioning. One attacker rushed. Steven stepped aside. The attacker collided with another. Both fell. Another swung wildly. Steven shifted. The swing missed. The attacker stumbled. The ground ended the threat. Another came from behind. Steven turned. Not fast. Not slow. Just in time. The attacker lost balance. Gravity finished the work. No punches. No kicks. No theatrics, just physics. Just leverage, just control. The attackers began to fall faster than they could stand. Not because Steven was speeding up. Because they were slowing down. Fatigue arrived. Breathing grew heavy. Steps grew sloppy. Movements grew desperate. Steven remained unchanged. His breathing stayed steady. His posture stayed upright. His focus stayed sharp. 7 minutes passed. Not a long time. Not a short enough. By then none of them stood. Not unconscious. Not broken, just stopped. Some sat on the ground. Some leaned against walls. Some lay still trying to understand what had happened. The courtyard returned to silence. Not the silence of fear, the silence of disbelief. No shouting, no chaos, no celebration, just stillness. People looked at Steven, not with shock, with realization. They had not witnessed a fight. They had witnessed control. They had not seen dominance. They had seen discipline. They had not seen rage. They had seen mastery. Steven stood untouched, not triumphant, not proud, just calm. He did not raise his arms. He did not scan for applause. He did not seek attention. He simply stood. Because this was never about proving anything. This was about ending something. And it had ended. Not through violence, through control. Control beats numbers. Guards arrived, not rushing in panic, not shouting, not drawing weapons. They arrived to a scene already finished. The threat was over. No alarms, no bodies piled, no chaos. Just men sitting, standing, leaning, trying to understand what had just happened. Steven stood untouched. No blood, no torn clothing, no signs of struggle, calm, steady, unbroken. He did not look like a man who had just faced 54 attackers. He looked like a man who had finished a conversation. The guards looked around in confusion. They expected destruction, they found discipline. They expected violence, they found control. No one pointed, no one shouted, no one accused. Because no one could. Nothing unlawful had happened. Nothing excessive had occurred. Nothing needed explaining. Steven had not attacked. He had responded. And he had ended the threat without becoming the threat. That difference matters. Most conflicts end with dominance. This one ended with balance. Most stories end with force. This one ended with restraint. Steven checked his surroundings calmly. Not for threats, for safety. He did not seek revenge. He did not seek validation. He did not seek attention. He simply ensured that the moment was over. Then he stood still. That stillness spoke louder than any action. People in the crowd began to process what they had witnessed. Not a fight, not a brawl, not a battle. They had witnessed control under pressure. They had witnessed discipline under threat. They had witnessed power without aggression. That is rare. Most people equate power with loudness, with force, with dominance, but this moment rewrote that definition. Power was quiet. Power was calm. Power was controlled. Within hours the story spread, not because of injury, not because of blood, not because of destruction, because of mastery. People shared it not for shock, but for meaning. They shared it because it showed something forgotten. That real strength does not need noise. That real power does not need anger. That real authority does not need violence. The story moved across screens, across cities, across countries. Not as a tale of survival, but as a lesson in discipline. People replayed the moment not to see who fell, but to see how no one had to. They did not study the strikes. They studied the calm. They did not focus on the attackers. They focused on the control. Because control is rare under pressure, and pressure reveals truth. In that moment, Steven did not reveal strength. He revealed character. He did not prove skill. He proved discipline. He did not show power. He showed restraint. And restraint is the highest form of power. This is why the story lasted, not because it was extreme, Because it was meaningful. Not because it was violent, because it was controlled. Not because it was shocking, because it was inspiring. Real power is calm under pressure. Type Resp T if you believe discipline defeats chaos.